Hi everyone. We did our Ignite Talk on Martin Luther King Jr. My name's Nick.
My name is Stone.
My name's Maddie.
And my name is Sam.
Martin Luther King Jr. He was born January 15th, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. His father was a Baptist and civil rights activist. His mom was a talented musician and teacher, daughter of a pastor.
MLK grew up deeply religious and middle class. His family heavily valued education and faith. A conversation with his family and others in Atlanta shaped his worldview on racial inequality. Inspired by Christian teachings and Gandhi's philosophy on nonviolence, Martin Luther King Jr. paved his path.
His impact in the world, he was a civil rights activist. He was a Baptist minister. He was the leader of civil rights movement in the 50s and 60s, and he's also a big contributor in organizing the Montgomery bus boycott. He delivered the I Have a Dream speech in Washington. He helped push voting rights for African Americans, and he has his own federal holiday.
Martin Luther King Jr. is obviously praised, but there was also a lot of controversies that came with it. He was criticized by the government, or he criticized the government's decisions to participate in the Vietnam War. He did not approve of capitalism, believed in racial inequality could not exist without economic equality. He was criticized by Malcolm X and many others for being too moderate and cautious, and he was extremely disliked by white Americans at the time, 75% disapproval rate.
His personal controversies included the FBI wiretapping his phone and bugged hotel rooms to try and expose him. They found evidence that proved MLK had sexual encounters outside of his marriage, which means he cheated on his wife. The FBI also tried to blackmail him and encourage his suicides. His close friends and biographers confirmed his affairs. The recordings were never released publicly, however. His wife believed the FBI exaggerated about all this stuff, but she still stayed with King and did not focus on any of the allegations.
Is there ever such thing as a just war? MLK never justified war and mentioned violence was never the answer. Other activists at the time, such as Malcolm X, heavily disagreed and criticized King. Looking back, is praised for his peaceful tactics and teachings. MLK wanted to be peaceful to gain media respect, even if it took longer to gain attention.
Can an individual make a difference? MLK proved that one individual can make an unmeasurable difference. His leadership led to influence in others that eventually became globally known.
How does conflict lead to change? The movement led by MLK came with much controversy and conflict. Big, di big division in a society leads for people in power forced to take action.
How are we connected to the past? The Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964, which was only about 60 years ago. And without MLK, it's very possible that the law was never passed, at the very least delayed, and we would have felt much more impact of segregation today.
What stereotypes and prejudices still exist in our world? Gender stereotypes still are very relevant, um, as long as religion and age.
What is equality? In this quote, I have a dream that my four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. MLK defines equality by fair treatment and opportunity based on who a person is and not superficial differences. What would MLK strive for today? MLK would fight for reparations, a society that has done something special against the Negro for hundreds of years, must now do something special. MLK Jr. really emphasized not the color of your skin, but rather your actions and judging a person by what they do each day instead of the color of their skin. The true meaning behind I Have a Dream speech. In King's I Have a Dream speech, it was more about creating a world in a society where people were judged by their actions. King hoped for a world where blacks and whites could live happily and be seen as equal. As a whole, I Have a Dream was more about transforming hearts, restoring justice, and realizing the true meaning of freedom. The role of the church in the civil rights movement. During this time, church was very important. Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. Real faith means moving forward even when the results are uncertain. King was not just talking about religious faith, but also in humanity and justice and the moral power of love.
The Voting Rights Act of 1965. Martin Luther King was a vital figure in the Montgomery marches, which drew national attention to the voter suppression that was occurring at the time. They consisted of 3 protest marches held in March of 1965 demanding voter rights for African Americans in the South. The protests created increased tension and made President Lyndon B. Johnson sign the landmark legislation. He was a recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. In 1964, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his work to end racial segregation and discrimination through nonviolent means. The Norwegian Nobel Committee awarded him the prize for his leadership in the civil rights movement and his unwavering commitment to achieving racial justice through nonviolent action. His legacy is celebrated worldwide. Martin Luther King Jr. is one of the few American figures who has a holiday celebrated in other countries. For example, he's celebrated in Canada, Japan, Israel, and the Netherlands. In 1986, the U.S. made Martin Luther King Jr. Day a federal holiday in order to inspire other countries to pursue freedom and equality. Today, schools, banks, government offices are generally closed for Martin Luther King Jr. in order to remember the work that he has done and appreciate how far our society has come due to his life. He also was part of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the SCLC. In 1957, he co-founded the SCLC, a major civil rights organization that coordinated nonviolent protests across the South. The SCLC played key roles in campaigns such as Birmingham 1963 and Selma 1965. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.